Ever wondered what happens when a 1982 suburb meets dinosaurs? Welcome to the end of Oak Street.
Hey, it's Leah here, feeling curious and pumped to dive into today's topic.
And I'm Garrett, ready to explore this wild ride with you all.
So the focus today is The End of Oak Street, a science fiction survival film where a whole 1982 neighborhood gets yanked into prehistoric times, time portals and dinosaurs included.
It mixes family drama with creature danger. Think cul-de-sacs, rooftop chases, and a ticking clock where wormholes open and close on a schedule.
Quick story. When I was a kid, my cousins and I watched dinosaur movies on repeat. I was that kid pausing the VHS to look up which dinosaur was which in an old picture book. I loved the survival angle. The idea that smart choices and sticking together could beat giant teeth. So seeing a normal neighborhood suddenly face that world hits that childhood wonder nerve, but it adds emotions that feel more grown up, like marriage strain and secrets under pressure.
All right, let's set the stage for this one. The End of Oak Street is written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. The movie plants us in 1982 with no smartphones or internet, and then moves the suburb back in time. The mechanism is a wormhole, a theoretical tunnel through space and time that shortcuts distance or jumps eras. In this story, it appears as a blinding white light and a pressure shift, then vanishes and returns on a rhythm. Simple picture, a door that keeps appearing in different rooms and on rooftops, but only for a moment.
The central family is the Platts. Denise, played by Anne Hathaway, is an aspiring novelist quietly considering divorce. Greg, played by Ewan McGregor, has lost his main job and is secretly delivering pizzas at night to keep money coming in. Their kids, Audrey and Brian, are resilient, curious, and often the brains during survival puzzles. There is also Jeanette Christensen, a neighbor who joins their little group after losing her parents, and Mrs. Valcourt, the local librarian who first spots clues that time is going weird. Oh, and Starbuck, the family dog, who isn't just comic relief. This dog is a hero later on.
Before everything blows up, there are breadcrumbs. Denise photographs a strange plant in a neighbor's yard, and Mrs. Valcourt recognizes it as a species that went extinct millions of years ago. Radio chatter mentions heightened solar flares, which are sudden bursts of radiation from the sun that can mess with electronics in the atmosphere. Those details hint that the timeline is wobbling. Then during a storm, there's a flash. Total whiteout, the power dies, air pressure shifts, and the neighborhood wakes to a primeval landscape on all sides.
Why the solar flares, though? Why would that be a clue that time is about to fold in on itself?
Great question. The movie doesn't offer hard science so much as a nudge. Solar flares are big energy disruptions and are a plausible sci-fi trigger for wormholes. It's less a physics lecture and more a mood setter. Cosmic weirdness is afoot.
Once they realize they are surrounded by dinosaurs, that everyday suburb turns into a survival maze. Greg admits he knows Denise was considering leaving and confesses the pizza gig. They miss an early wormhole escape on purpose because they refuse to abandon the kids, which is both heartbreaking and noble. They hide in a car while a herd storms by, and in that tiny bubble they make up. It is a small scene, but it gives the later action emotional weight. Along the way, they find Jeanette, traumatized after her parents were killed. She sticks with them, and they become a pocket family.
Morning comes, and the danger spikes. An Allosaurus, a large meat-eating dinosaur from the late Jurassic, stalks them. Greg dies shielding the others, which lands the movie's theme of parental sacrifice hard. They make it to Mrs. Valcourt's roof, where they spot that the wormhole openings follow a beat, like a bus schedule you can't quite see. Brian mistimes a jump, falls short, and a pterosaur, a flying reptile often mistaken for a dinosaur, snatches him. Then Starbuck launches in and attacks the pterosaur midair to free Brian. That is an all-time dog moment.
Mrs. Valcourt gets a brief action hero turn. She kills a creature in her own house and then is overwhelmed by others. It is brave and tragic. The survivors scramble back to the roof, catch the next wormhole, and find themselves about 20 minutes before the original white flash. With that narrow head start, Denise starts knocking on doors to warn people and reroutes Greg's next pizza delivery to a far-off bus stop, which keeps him outside the blast radius. The light hits again and Oak Street disappears, but her family is intact. 2 years later, we learn the military has fenced off the displaced zone for scientific study, and Denise publishes a book called The End of Oak Street, Inside the Story, a neat meta touch about turning trauma into narrative.
On the production side, the movie comes from Warner Bros. As the distributor, with Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams and Hannah Minghela's company, and Jackson Pictures, producers Matt Jackson and Tommy Harper. Filming happened in London and Atlanta, with sound stages and locations doubling for an American suburb because of tax incentives. The budget lands around $80 to $92 million, so mid to upper tier for a creature-heavy studio picture. It premiered in August 2026 and opened in the US later that month. Composer Michael Giacchino, known for big genre scores, wrote a soundtrack with 27 cues, plenty of room for those heartbeats and chase rhythms. The marketing did spark controversy when a now-deleted promo used generative AI, software that creates media by learning from patterns in data, to stage a fake interview with Starbuck on an AI dog podcast called Goldie and Frenchie. Fans and industry folks pushed back, the clip was pulled, and the debate about AI in marketing kept simmering.
Reception-wise, it leaned positive. Zachary Lee at RogerEbert.com, a prominent film site founded by critic Roger Ebert, gave it a perfect 4 out of 4 for the thrill and emotion combo. The Associated Press critic Jake Coyle praised the blend of genres and the leads. Clarice Luffrey at The Independent felt it outshines recent Jurassic World entries. Nikki Bogan at Screen Daily called it a fun, fast-paced creature feature and even used that zinger, Jurassic Park on steroids. Not everyone was sold. David Rooney at The Hollywood Reporter labeled it high-end trash, arguing it rides nostalgia too hard, and the Houston Chronicle liked the craft but pointed out some logic gaps. Big thrills with a split on how much the retro flavor helps or hurts.
Speaking of that retro flavor, I'm curious if the heavy 1980s vibe is doing all the lifting or if it tips into over-reliance. I love a good Amblin-style nod, those family-centered 80s adventures linked to Steven Spielberg, but sometimes the warm glow can blur originality. Does this movie stand on its own feet, or does it lean on the nostalgia crutch a bit too much?
I hear you, but for me the 1982 setting is not just a mood board. It changes the stakes. With no smartphones, the suspense feels natural. People miss each other, they have to trust instincts, and that amplifies the family themes. The suburban iconography, sprinklers, garages, rooftops, becomes a playground for danger and wonder. I think it adds texture and heart. It's not only homage, it has function.
That is a solid point. I guess my hang-up shows up when the movie mirrors beats we've seen before. Bikes, cul-de-sacs, kids solving puzzles. And I wonder if the fresh parts are the time loop sprint at the end or the dog save. When David Rooney calls it high-end trash, he's being cheeky while poking at that copy-paste feeling. Why do you think it avoids becoming pure pastiche, meaning an imitation of a style with little new added?
Because the emotional through line lands. Denise and Greg's reconciliation in a parked car while thunder shakes the chassis. Then Greg's death minutes later. That hurts in a very specific, grounded way. Starbucks' midair rescue is outrageous, but it's anchored by how much Brian means to everyone. And the 20-minute return is a nice twist on time travel. It's limited, messy, and about saving people rather than rewriting everything. So yeah, the vibe is nostalgic. But the character payoffs feel freshly earned.
All right, let's roll on. In the pop culture lane, this one invites comparisons to Jurassic Park for dinosaur suspense and E.T. for the kid-centric suburb lens. It has that Spielbergian mix of awe and menace, which is probably why Screen Daily's Jurassic Park on steroids line stuck. The trick is that this story is meaner in places, a bit more horror survival than pure wonder.
Totally. And setting it in 1982 makes those comparisons feel intentional, like the movie is joining a conversation with its influences, rather than pretending they don't exist.
Here's a thought I've been turning over. What if the wormhole had dropped Oak Street into a far future Earth instead of prehistory? Imagine skyscraper-sized forests of bioengineered plants, or cities eaten by sand where autonomous drones, little flying robots with simple rules, patrol the sky. The survival playbook would flip. Dinosaurs are visible threats, Future hazards could be invisible systems, surveillance, radiation zones, nanotech dust you can't see but shouldn't breathe.
And social puzzles would kick in. Do you try to talk to whoever's left? Do they even speak your language anymore? Or has communication shifted to tech handshakes your 1982 brain can't fake? The family drama would adapt. Denise and Greg would still need honesty, but survival might hinge on learning future tools instead of climbing roofs and timing jumps. Honestly, the dog still matters. Starbuck could be the one who detects danger before people notice. Animals pick up patterns we miss.
I like that. The wormhole's ticking clock could still work. Maybe windows open near safe corridors controlled by future infrastructure, and if you miss one, you're routed into a restricted zone. The theme of tiny choices having massive outcomes holds up whether it's talons or tech. And that's a wrap for this one. Stay curious.
Thanks for joining us on Laid Back Learning. Until next time, keep exploring.